Welcome. If you find yourself right now working crazy hard and not making enough money, this is the video that's going to start to solve that problem for you. Let me tell you a bit about my story. Back in 1996, I started my own accounting firm. And back then I thought it was about winning every possible client. I went from 0 clients to 200 in 2 years. And by the end of 1998, I was struggling. I was working crazy long hours and I was struggling to make ends meet. And that wasn't until late 1999 when I discovered value pricing. And that's when everything changed for me. I first met Ron Baker, a good friend of mine now, my hero, my mentor, and that was the thing that solved my problems. You see, what I then realized was that I started on this value pricing journey, and the first thing I did was I started repricing some existing services, some special work, tax planning work, and I also started using what I'd learned with brand new clients going forward. And what I found in 2000, I found that when people bought these new services, I got much better prices, sometimes 4 times the price. And when I won brand new clients, I was getting much better prices. And that was great, but I was still working crazy hours. Why? Because I still had these 200 clients over here where I'd priced them wrong. I was way too cheap. And so what we must do is, yes, it's great to start value pricing with new clients, and that's easy because we're starting with a blank sheet of paper. They don't know how we used to price. So yes, it's easy to start with new clients and it's easy to start pricing with new services. But if you want to start to change your results fast, you have to tackle the existing client base. And one of the key pieces of advice for you is you must do this at least every single year. You must reprice every single client at least annually. So why don't we do that? Well, I think there's 2 problems. Number 1 is we don't do it because we don't know how to, and so we put it off. We're going to talk about how you do that. The second one is we worry that if we put our prices up, we'll lose clients. Okay, let's address that issue. And I think it's really important that we look at some math. So what I'm going to do is, let's go across to here. Let's imagine that in your practice you're doing 100,000. And let's imagine that your total costs, the people you pay, your premises are 70,000 and you're making 30,000 in profit. Now, if you were to put your prices up by, let's just say for argument's sake, 20%. If you do that, then what will happen in your practice is your total revenue will go up 20%. Your costs won't change. It's a pricing change. That all goes to bottom line profit. You make more money. But I know what you're thinking. What if I lose clients? Well, let's just imagine for a minute that you were to lose as many as 20% of your clients. Okay? So if we were to lose 20% of clients, we're actually not much worse off. Mathematically, a little bit. In this case, 4,000. Although, in actual fact, if we lost 20% of clients, we might save some of those costs because perhaps we don't need that full-time person to be full-time anymore. Or perhaps there may be some other costs. So in other words, if we put our price up by 20% and we lose 20% of clients, our results don't really change. We're not really much worse off. But here's what does happen. If you lose 20% of your clients, that means you can now work a 4-day week. You've now freed up a full day a week. And the question then is, what could you do with 1 extra day every single week? And you could do some extraordinary things. You could use that day to, for example, go out and win amazing new clients at much better prices, which will very quickly, within a week or 2, you will probably start to replace that small, tiny amount you lose. So losing 20% of clients is a great thing. Also because which of your clients will you lose? Will you lose the best clients, the ones that love you, or will you lose those clients that, to be honest, are a bit of a pain? Some people call them the pitter clients, the pain in the arse clients, the ones that always complain and moan. I think you'll lose those ones, the ones that really we don't want anyway. So you then have a better practice. and free up time. Now, the reality is this will not happen, by the way. This will not happen because when I did this I did it in 2001, and I put my price up by 20%. And what I found was that I lost about 1% of my clients. I was better off. And so I did it the following year. I did it a year later. And I lost a few more, but not many. And my problem back then was because I'd built up 200 clients, and actually I was terrible at getting the right clients. I wanted to lose 40%. When I put my price up by 20%, I could not get them to leave. It was frustrating. I wanted lots to go. After 2 years, they started to. And what I've been doing for the last just over 20 years now, I've been teaching the process that I went through in 2001, 2002. I've been teaching that to thousands of accounting firms around the world. And most people follow the process and put their price up by 20%, and everybody reports either losing no clients or losing just a handful, just a few percent, which means that the most likely thing that will happen is you will get these sorts of results. Now, I don't know what your revenue, what your numbers are, but you will probably increase by 20% and lose probably 2-3% of your clients. You will be both better off in terms of money, and the clients that you lose will probably be the ones that you want to lose. So, how do you do that? Well, firstly, there's two approaches. The best thing that you can do is go and meet every single client and have a new value conversation with them. Now, the trouble with that is if you're like me, I had 200 clients. I knew I had to reprice them all. I did not have the time to go and visit 200 clients and have a pricing conversation. So I had that conversation with just a small number. I had that conversation with those great clients where I knew they might buy more stuff and where I could get the biggest impact on increasing price. And I also had that meeting with some of the clients where I was getting the worst prices, but I wanted to keep them. But I could only do that with a few. I only had so much time. So for the rest, I wrote to them. I wrote something I call a contract renewal letter. And I wrote to the other 90% of my clients. And this was something I then did every single year. Now, the key to this is the content of that communication, that letter, that email, whatever you send out. The key is communication, because what we have to do is use the right words to properly articulate the value. We have to focus on not we're putting your prices up, but instead, this is where we're focusing our attention to help you build a better business. This is the value we give to you. This is the value we'll want to give to you going forward. Words are so important. We have to carefully craft the right words. And when people understand the value and realize the value and see the value they're going to get going forwards, then they're unlikely to leave. The other thing we do, though, is that every client is different. Some clients will not want to pay you more. Some will happily pay you much more if they feel they're getting much more. So how do we know which one's which? We don't. So what we do is we give them choices. We give them different options. We give them 3 choices. I call this menu pricing. Think of it as you like, if you like, of the bronze, silver, gold. So if last year, let's say last year they bought your bookkeeping service or your accounting service, and let's say for argument's sake they paid you $5,000, and you want to increase your prices by 20%. So you want that $5,000 to go to $6,000. If you're worried about losing clients, we create 3 options. And the middle option is where we give them a service which is the same as they got last year, with perhaps 1 or 2 extra little features at 20% more. But just in case we're worried they might leave and we want to keep them, we have a cheaper option which is similar to last year's price, perhaps a small 5% increase based on inflation, but also we perhaps do a bit less stuff, and we give them that as a choice. And then we have a premium option, a really expensive thing, where we offer some things that we know will make a big difference to their life and their business. Now, when you give them choice, this is what will typically happen when you do it right. You will find that most of your existing clients will go for levels 1 or 2. Most of them actually for level 2. They will want the stuff that they had last year and some extra things that you identify. But worst case scenario is they pay you a small increase at 5% and they stay and you do some less stuff. But what you'll also find is you will have some clients, if you craft that premium one that may be 50% higher, some clients will choose that. So overall, you are likely to find that the average increase is about 20% and almost nobody will leave because those that might leave can still choose a cheaper option. So we give them choice. And these are the two keys. We clearly articulate the value, we give people choices. So my experience, I did this in 2001, I did it in 2002. Both times I put the price up by 20% and I lost 1 or 2% of my clients each of those 2 years. And it had a huge impact on my firm. You just have to do the math. 20% increase 2 years in a row is 44%. That's a big increase in revenue. And what I'm going to put below is a link to a video that I did with an accountant in the US called Stanley Dean. And he followed this process and he does it every single year. And his experience was extraordinary. He went much higher than 20%. He was really brave. And so if you want to get some insights on, deeper insights on this, go and watch that video with Stanley. I strongly recommend that. And I've done this process and I've taught this to thousands of accounting firms. As I said, almost everybody goes for 20% when they follow the process and very few people lose clients, very few clients. Thank you for watching that video. If you found that valuable, if there's something you found useful there, could you do me a favor? Could you first of all, please just hit the thumbs up button to say you like it, but could you also put in the comments below, what was the most valuable thing that you got out of that video? And what's been your experience with that? If you could share that, it would be great feedback for me. And if the more people who like the video, then I will go away and create more videos like this. Also, this video that you just watched is an example of the sorts of videos that we put in the Value Pricing Academy on our school platform. And if you want to be part of that Value Pricing Academy, you can join for free. And we'll put the link below. You can join for free and be part of a community of accounting professionals looking to improve their pricing on this value pricing journey, and a place where you can ask me and my team questions. So once again, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you inside the Value Pricing Academy. Bye for now.